And welcome in once again to Beyond the Box Score, our weekly program where we break down all the latest football action from high school, college, and the pros here on Pulaski Citizen Live. As always, I'm your host, Mark Mize, joined once again by my co-host, Chandler Harmon. Chandler, great to have you once again.
Great to be here, Mark. Had a little bit of a rest last week, just like the Giles County football team, but great to be back once again with you, man.
Chandler on a bye week last week, just like Giles County was. And I know you've heard the rumors, but I want to set things straight right now. Chandler will not be resigning from Beyond the Box Score to potentially try to race for a Senate seat in Alabama. Some of you are going to get that joke. It's a Bruce Pearl joke there, as he has resigned this week from Auburn. Says he's not going to go after political aspirations, but you know that Auburn seat down there that Tommy Tuberville had, I think it's calling him. So I had a couple really interesting stories this week in football in general. The other one was he's a man, he's 40, and he's now unemployed. Mike Gundy, who was the second longest tenured college football coach, is out at Oklahoma State mid-season, even though he's been there since 2005, Chandler.
Absolutely. You know, he's led some really good seasons. Before him, they didn't have many winning seasons, and he went 19 straight winning seasons to have one of the college records. So obviously, you know, a little sad to see him go. I've heard one or two rumors online that maybe he might try to approach Tennessee and become an assistant coach. I don't know if there's any, truth to that, but it would be interesting nonetheless, considering their pursuit of him during their great coaching search a few years back.
All joking aside, he's only 58, and quite frankly, you kind of feel like he's got some more college football in him, even though he's been in it in the head coaching ranks for quite a while. But not just college, not just NFL, but high school news as well, as of course Giles County getting back at it. They think they're going to have some of their guys healthy again this week as they play in the Elk River rivalry, a non-region game versus Lincoln County. Chandler, that's always a fun one.
Absolutely, Mark. And I think that this could be their chance to get right. In their last matchup, they had quite a few turnovers. Both O'Connor and Ton Thomas, in talking to them, said that, there's some chances that we're going to see a lot better performance from them. Obviously, time will tell when we actually get to the matchup whether or not the team can perform to how well they've trained. But obviously some adjustments made, and hopefully we'll see some more better ball control from the team.
Definitely. And then on the Richland side, the Raiders will be hosting the first of a 3-game homestand. This one will be versus region foe Eagleville after the Raiders won in non-region play 42-8 last week over Community. And so feels like they are probably once again on the upward trajectory, and they have maybe the biggest region game of the season. If you want to take home this region title, I think you have to play well in this one, Chandler.
Absolutely. And we saw, last week's game, they did really well. I think that was their get-right game. So it's going to be exciting to see, can they take this game, and does that give them what they need going forward to clinch the region?
Definitely. And so Raiders and Bobcats in action, both on WKSR, where you can check out the streams and the audio, and also our coverage, as always, social media, our stories in the newspaper and online, box scores and photography here from Pulaski Citizen Live. And so we're going to go ahead and take a quick timeout here on Beyond the Box Score. Back on the other side of this break, Chandler Harmon and Chris Bledsoe will break down Giles County football.
When it comes to real estate, Haney Realty and Property Management is the team you can trust. Our extensive knowledge of the market and industry allows us to help our clients with any real estate need. We know how to get results. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, or rent, let us put our expertise to work for you. Call us today at 931-347-9150 or visit HaneyRealtyPam.com to learn more. Haney Realty and Property Management, your best friend in real estate.
This is Chandler Harmon bringing you this part of our show with the Giles County segment. And joining me here today is Chris Bledsoe. Chris, how are you doing, man?
Man, I'm super excited. It's another week of high school football, getting a chance to get back to the Brickyard. Haven't been there what feels like, a month of Fridays, but just excited to get back, excited to be back in the booth. Looking forward to get a chance to work with JP again and get a chance to see some Bobcat football. I think it's going to be a fun night.
Absolutely. And obviously, Bobcats didn't play last week as they had their bye week, so a chance for them to recuperate and come back into the field refreshed after losing their last matchup. Chris, what are some hopes for recovery as far as the injuries go? We've been down a few players. Do you think that we might see some of them return to the field in this matchup?
Hopefully so. I think some of those, I've had a chance to talk to a few of those guys that's been banged up over the last couple of weeks. And I think several of those will be available. I think they've been at practice and been practicing full pads, so that's good. To answer your question, do I think we'll see some of those guys? Maybe, maybe not. Lincoln County is a game that obviously you want to win. It's a rivalry game of sorts, but it's one of those also that doesn't really amount to anything as far as playoffs concerned or are concerned. And so I don't know how much we'll see from some of those guys nursing some of those injuries because due to, the loss you took, the week before last, now these region games really mean a whole lot. And Giles County is not a team with a lot of depth. And so you don't want anything, crazy to happen in those ball games that, really don't matter. So we'll see. Maybe some of those guys get in spot play, but you never know with the Mad Hatter, David O'Connor. They may play, 48 minutes. So who knows?
Absolutely. Speaking of Lincoln County football, Giles County won all but last year's matchup between them. So going into it, overall over the past few years, they held the overall victory margin. Do you think that with Lincoln County being 5-0, do you think that's going to present a bit of a challenge for them?
Without a doubt, I don't necessarily think it has a lot to do with their 5-0 record as much as I think Lincoln County plays a similar style of football that Giles County does. It's a physical. This is what we're doing. Can you stop it? Can you fit the hole? Can you fit the run and do those type of things? And so, how the Bobcats respond to that, I think is going to be crucial. And then just looking back to 2 weeks ago, you played at Watertown. There were a lot of costly errors in that ball game, Chandler, and so things that you have to clean up. I'm sure they've addressed some of those things, and then defensively, you've got to figure some stuff out. We have not been the team that we've been in the years past defensively. We've struggled more nights than we haven't. Getting stops, getting off the field. And so we've got to correct some of that. Lincoln County is going to be a team that's very physical up front. They got some athletes on the outside. They got a quarterback that can move around. And so, again, how the Cats respond to that is going to be huge in that ball game. And I think Lincoln County is going to present some difficult options. The Cats just have to be ready to play.
Absolutely. And obviously the Bobcats been down 2 running backs. Hopefully maybe we'll see some more from the 2 guys that have been out. But overall, they've got a really good backfield. And with that, I think that could help them as far as if we can get the game going with the passing and rushing plays. Hopefully that gives us something to work off of.
Without a doubt, I think that you have to Giles County has been in the years past super ground heavy. Even when you go back, decades or a decade and almost decade and a half now, or 2 decades rather, to the likes of Bo Wallace, former Ole Miss standout quarterback. Even when Bo was here, Bo had a lot of yards, but part of what made Giles County offense so good was the late Tobias Houston. God rest his soul. He was a dominant running back in the backfield for the Bobcats, and he did a good job. You had him. You had guys like Josh Smith. You had Josh Perez, another one of those. So again, guys that can really tote the pill, offensive line, control the line of scrimmage, and so those are things that we've hung our hat on since the O'Connor era. And so, again, getting some of those guys back healthy, I think, will be huge. Hopefully that happens this coming week, and then we get back in the swing of things, getting a chance to play the ball we want to play. We've got a quarterback that can sling it, but you've got to be able to run the ball to give him opportunity to be able to drop back and throw it.
Absolutely. And obviously, we talked about earlier some costly errors that went down in their last matchup. But overall, the turnover for Giles County has not been many. That was their first game where they had a turnover. So hopefully when they go into this matchup, we see they play a much more clean game. I think that could be a big decider of the matchup as it can be decider of any game.
100%. And I say it each and every week, and like I told you last week when we were here, I'll take some of the blame. I wasn't there to make my my Santa Claus comment, but now everybody that's been hearing that for the last however many years I've been doing this and making that same key to victory, you understand why I make that statement now. Because all it took was you going over there one night and again, playing Santa Claus. You turned it over 3 times and you allowed them to put points on the board off of some of those turnovers. That's your ball game. The one key you have, one getting ready to go into the end zone, you fumble there. It's a backbreaker. It's a game changer. And so I think that it allows this young Bobcat team to see that the margin for error when you're a talented ball club is so thin between victory and defeat. And so, one play here, one play there, one less turnover here, one less turnover there. one less penalty, whatever it may be. In close ball games, you have to be really good in those areas. And unfortunately for Giles, Watertown was better that night. They took care of the ball, those type of things. And so, again, that's your ball game. So hopefully over the last couple of weeks, they've had a chance to address some of that, and they're ready to come out and perform at a high level. If not, this thing could get ugly in a hurry against Lincoln County because they can play.
Absolutely. We've already talked about some key things. Going to this matchup, what are 3 things that you think will really decide the game in favor of either team?
Ball security, ball security, ball security. Number one, I think that Friday night there's a chance that there may be some lingering showers and rain and stuff of that nature. Feels like it's rained for 40 days, 40 nights here in Pulaski, Chandler. But hopefully that may be something that plays the interest and plays a key in the ball game. So you have to prepare for that. You got to be ready to take care of the football. Number one, and that's either ball club. Number two, I say this again on a consistent basis, but who's going to control the line of scrimmage? Whose front 7 is going to be the most dominant on each side of the ball, offensively or defensively, and whoever controls the line of scrimmage consistently, and that's at any level of football, from Pop Warner to college to NFL. You win a line of scrimmage, you're going to win a lot of ball games because you can dictate what you do versus what the other team does. So again, who's going to control that? It's going to be 2 teams with very like-minded coaching staffs and identities, and so who's going to be more imposing into their will and come out and get a victory there. And I would probably say whoever wins the turnover battle is one of those for sure. I think it's going to be important. And then lastly, it is a rivalry ball game. So Giles having a really ugly loss over there a couple of last year in that typhoon. Me and Mr. Wade Neely traveled over there, and it really was raining. I never have heard the saying, raining cats and dogs, but I'm pretty sure I saw 2 pit bull puppies and some kitties, falling over there in Lincoln County last year. So again, that's something that you think about in Giles County. They have it circled on their calendar. They're going to want to win. They're going to want to give Lincoln County their first loss. So whichever team can come in and settle down from that rivalry and just play football, I think there's going to be a team that's going to be victorious.
Absolutely. So the Bobcats to play at home at the Brickyard, and we'll be hosting Lincoln County. Chris, it's been great talking to you, and we're going to take a quick timeout, and then we'll hear from Giles County High School Principal Don Thomas here on Beyond the Box Score.
Gas Department of Pulaski is here to help you save money. Natural gas is safe, efficient, and cost-effective. It's up to 50 to 60% less expensive than electricity for home heating. Plus, it's clean and efficient, so you can feel good about your choice. Call us today for service or visit our website to learn more. Make the switch to natural gas and start saving today.
This is Chandler Harmon, and joining me today is Principal Don Thomas of Giles County High School. Principal Thomas, how are you today?
Doing well. Thank you for being here.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So what are some things going on this week in the school system?
Well, we're just getting prepared for fall break in a couple of weeks, making sure we get all of our grading in and everything. That's when our first 9 weeks in, so we're just trying to make sure we're all caught up.
Absolutely. Speaking of that, we're already in fall just like that. What are some, looking ahead to the rest of the semester, what are some things that the high school's looking to do?
We have our schedule set, our testing set and everything, and we try to plan it out. As we said, first 9 weeks ends at fall break, then we get set for testing after Thanksgiving, so it's, we have timelines and dates to hit that we try to keep on plans.
Absolutely. And obviously, Giles County Bobcats back this week after the bye week at home. What are some things, you're looking forward to in this game? Have a chance for them to correct, some things and get back on track?
No doubt about it. We still have a great group of kids, young men. We would like to see everybody healthy. We hadn't had that all season, but that is no excuse. We, next man up mentality. And when we start getting everybody back healthy, we're still a dominant force. And, that's just what we're working for, is to get people healthy and to keep our mentality right, while we're not healthy.
Absolutely. Going off that a little bit, Coach O'Connor talking about Hannah, stepping up in the role with, 2 running backs out,
There's no doubt about it. We have, we play 2 linebackers. Both of them have been out for multiple weeks. We play 2 running backs. Both of those, we hadn't had either running back for the first 4 games. We had one for a couple games, and then now we're getting the other gentleman back. but we just hadn't been solid in positions that are very important. So we feel good about our players. We feel good about our squad, and we feel good about what we're doing. So we just got to get everybody back healthy.
Absolutely. And before I head out of here, is there anything else you want to talk about that's going on?
School's going well. The environment's going well. Still adjusting to the laws about phone use and things like that. That's an adjustment. Some students don't understand if it's put away and everything that the rule is and our policy for Giles County is still to be cut off. And some parents don't like that, but that is the policy and that is the law and that is what we're going to go by. And and that's just where we're at. So we're just adjusting to that. And but overall, our school environment's really good. Our start up a school year is really good, and I think we're on pace to have a great year.
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
For over 50 years, PES Energize has been proudly powering our community in Pulaski and Giles County, Tennessee. We're more than just an electric utility. We also offer internet and phone services. Our commitment to our customers and our community is what sets us apart. We're dedicated to providing safe, reliable, and innovative services. At PES Energize, we believe that serving you is a privilege. We're here for all your energy needs. Visit PESenergize.com or call us today.
And we're back here on Beyond the Box Score. I'm your host, Mark Mize, joined for a third straight week. What a treat. Dylan Manus in the studio. Dylan, great to have you as always.
Mark, always good to be with you.
Absolutely. And so Dylan and I had a chance to broadcast the Richland versus Community game as the Raiders took another reprieve from region play to head up to Unionville to play 3A Community. The Raiders won 42-8, improving to 3-2 on the season. Community fell to 0-5. Dylan, I think it's safe to say that from the start, it was all Raiders.
It was. I believe it was 6 straight possessions in the first half. Touchdowns on every one of them. That's always a good half for a punter. When you don't have to have a stat, just sit on the bench and just make some friends. And Richland did everything that they needed to do as far as gaining that confidence back. We talked about, left some points on the field against Huntland in the first region game of the season, and we thought going in this could be that get right game that we talk about, and it proved to be just that.
Absolutely. And when you look at Community, obviously, I want to say first and foremost, even though they have never made a playoff appearance or had a winning season, really nice group of folks.
Yeah.
They were very hospitable to us. And so, we all don't want to be too down on them, but just they're not at a great place right now as a football program. I think they either had 15 or 16 straight losses there. And so tough for them. Of course, as you said, Richland scored 6 straight possessions to be up 42-0 with about 5 minutes to go in the second quarter. They actually ended up intercepting the ball and having a chance to make it 49-0 at the half. But actually, Coach Patterson, the Raiders, let the clock run out, kind of showing that, hey, they wouldn't want to be bad sports about it, considering that they were up against a just clearly overmatched opponent. Defensively, of note, they had 2 turnovers that they were able to get on the Richland side, including a Joe Jett fumble recovery and a Landon Harbison interception. And then in the first half, with the first team defense out there, they gave up only 24 yards and 1 first down in 7 drives. Think about that. You're averaging basically 3 yards, not per play, but per drive, with only 1 first down in the first half if you're Community there. I think it's safe to say that in every aspect of the game, the Raiders dominated.
Yeah, one of the things that stood out to me, and we talked about it during game time, was just the way Richland, regardless of where you spotted them on field position, they made it work. Whereas in the Community's case, how many times do we see them backed up inside their own 20, which didn't work for them in any way, especially trying to establish the ground game, maybe trying to possess the ball and play some keep away. But Richland defense, as you say, stout, a lot of 3 and outs on those punts that we saw, and that's exactly what they wanted.
Yeah, and just looking at some of the stats here, the interesting thing that you and I talked about on the air, Dylan, was the fact that it seemed like every single drive, Richland went with a different running back. 5 straight drives, I think they played 5 different running backs there. You're going to kind of see that in the stat total. Gavin Schrader at quarterback finished 7 of 9 for 93 yards and a touchdown. Really didn't need very much from him. you know, as they were able to run the ball, pass the ball, basically whatever Richland chose to do on a given play, they were pretty successful. And so it's rare that you find yourself in that situation. Looking at the rushing game, Colin Cagle had another great game, 5 carries, 85 yards, had 2 touchdowns. But of note, he's the only player who had multiple touchdowns, as you had 6 touchdowns by 5 different players. Levi Reedy, 6 carries for 48 yards and a touchdown. Jake Sands, 4 carries for 33 yards and a touchdown. Jax Hunter in the second half came in, the freshman, thought he had a great game, was really their lead back with the second team unit, had 5 carries for 30 yards. And then Tucker Mayo had 1 rush for 4 yards, but it was a touchdown. And then AJ Bates had a long carry that was actually brought back for a penalty, would have had about 20 yards. They only ended up with 1 yard for 1 carry on the night. Finally, looking at receiving, Jake Sands, 3 catches, 46 yards, and Aylin Kennedy, 2 catches for 31 yards. A really nice touchdown on a catch and run there too. And so just overall in the offense, what do you think it does for the confidence of the guys to, after they'd struggled a little bit, came in only averaging 18.5 points per game? I think you kind of exercised some of those demons, and you really just basically did anything you wanted all night long, and now you're preparing for Eagle Bowl.
Yeah, I think that that average offensively is not what they wanted as far as points per game, and of course, a game like this against an opponent that you can clearly overwhelm, it certainly tipped the average in our favor to go up enormously. That most amount of points that Richland has scored all year. Of course, when you're scoring on each possession, that certainly helps that stat. And I think just to give Schrader some confidence, coming off of a tough game against a feisty Huntland defense that was very bend but don't break. Thought that was good to see how they spread the ball around. Of course, sometimes a quarterback's best friend is a solid running game. And as you mentioned, Mark, going about 5 deep with the tailbacks. And we saw this the other night, how it was really by committee and it was really by possession. This possession we go with Cagle. This possession we go with Sands or Reedy or whoever. And you look at those stats on the rushing totals. I mean, that is outstanding production. 5, 6 carries, and you're still getting 85 yards, 48 yards. It's a very impactful each time they touch the ball. And what was a pretty solid rushing night against Huntland was a dominating rushing night over Community. And so I thought, getting kind of back on track there with what you do best and getting Schrader some confidence as well through the air.
And of course, none of that happens with the play of the offensive line. I mean, overall, we came in, I said, hey, one of the keys in this game is going to be both the offensive and defensive line. They dominated as much as I've seen Richland dominate in the last 5 years. I mean, offensive line looked great no matter who you put in there. Defensively, they had a couple guys get back from injuries, and Tucker Mayo and, of course, Lucas Tarpley as well. Unfortunately, Cam McNeese, as we mentioned last week, is out for the season. He will be coming back in a coaching, trying to coach the guys up after he comes back from surgery there. So we will see him back on the sideline. But Wyatt Journey and a couple of youngsters came in at defensive end and just had really good games there too. And so production is still there even without the star senior. And then finally, the previous week, they lost the turnover battle 3-1. All 3 turnovers came on the opponent's side of the field. This time they won the turnover battle 2-0. And I think that, something that was such a weakness versus Huntland comes back. They do a great job. I think that's going to be really important going forward because Richland, that's one of the things the coaching staff always talks about priding themselves on is winning the turnover battle. They haven't done that as much in the first 5 games as I think they want to. It'll be really good if they can set a tone with this game versus Community and then do that going forward.
Yeah, you need a good defense to complement your offense. And part of that is making opportunities happen, getting turnovers when they're needed most. We saw Richland do that a lot last year throughout the season. There was very much a bend but don't break defense. And so certainly you want to be on the positive side of that, of course, especially going back into region play when every game gets even more critical.
And finally, on special teams, once again, Harbison didn't have to come out on special teams until the second half. He punted once all night, which it was inside the 20. And then when it comes to AJ Bates, 6 for 6 on extra points. And also, I think the fact that he was able to put a bunch of touchbacks into the end zone and you see them consistently starting at the 20, whereas Richland getting returns is returning it out to the 35, to the 40. That's basically doubling your starting field position compared to your opponents. So dominating that area. Like I said, they're really anything Richland did on Friday night was successful for them.
Mark, you said it. In all three phases, offense, defense, special teams, you put it all together, and I think it gives great momentum going into more region action.
Well, let's hear a quick word from Coach Nick Patterson, who we had a chance to talk to after Friday night's game. So, quick word from the coach here on Beyond the Box Score from Pulaski Citizen Live.
All right, Coach, so a big road win, and the third time this year you've beat a team from a higher classification. Just how'd you feel about the performance tonight, winning 42-8?
Well, I thought our kids played really good. Maybe for the first time all year, we played complementary football. All three phases were clicking pretty good, and we've spent a lot of time talking about that and addressing that, especially on the road, because that's kind of been a nemesis for us. Start this early season. So, I thought it was important to play up to our capabilities, and I thought our kids did a really good job of that tonight.
When the starting defense was out there, 6 defensive possessions and only 1 first down for Community. I mean, probably one of the most dominant efforts I can remember seeing for the Raiders. Just how'd you feel about that unit?
Well, our defense is getting better and better each week with our communication and swarming to the ball and that sort of thing. So the defensive staff's doing a great job with them, and the players are really buying into it. So, we just expect to keep getting better and better as the season goes on with that group.
And then offensively, it was almost like you had a new star each drive. You did a really great job of getting the ball in a lot of different players' hands. Just kind of what was the game plan, knowing that you probably wanted to get quite a few people involved?
Well, we did, just trying to get back in rhythm. Preseason we were in great rhythm. We've been kind of hit or miss throughout, like I said, this early part of the season. So just trying to get back in a groove and get some guys going. And that we had a great opportunity to do that tonight, and they fed off each other, and we're excited for each other. And then a small sample of what we can be if we put it together.
And Colin Cagle for the second straight week was probably your most productive running back. Just how have you seen him progress in having the 2 touchdowns and nearly 100 yards tonight?
Well, he's a great football player. He's doing a great job for us on both sides of football. Just attacking the holes and doing a great job with that. I'm sure he'd give credit to the offensive line and our H-back and all those other guys for opening those holes up for him too. But just starting to see it, what we're doing a whole lot better as far as his vision and stuff. And, again, we think that's something that will increase as we continue this season.
On defense, got a couple guys back, but also had heard that Cam McNeese is out for the campaign. So what is your plan in terms of shifting guys around, on defense to help mitigate that big loss?
Well, it is a big loss. Cam had a great season going for us, and really hate that for him as a senior for sure. He's going to have surgery and then come out and help us coach and finish out the year as far as that goes, as a student helper. But just next man up mentality. Wyatt Journey stepped in and done a great job on defense for us at that spot, and we got a couple young guys that can fill that void as well. So, we've practiced and our depth is in pretty good shape. So we feel good that guys can fill that void a little bit. But again, a tremendous loss with losing McNeese for sure.
And finally, last question. Not often you get to see your second team unit for 2 full quarters, even if it was with a running clock. Just how'd you feel about it getting a chance for them to play against a first team unit for Community?
Well, it's a great opportunity for our young kids to get some reps and get some stuff on film so we can make those corrections and they continue to grow as football players. So, that was real important for those guys and made some big plays. Joe Jett got a fumble recovery, I think, and some big tackles, a couple big runs out of Jax Hunter. Who's a young running back that we were able to use tonight quite a bit. So, it's just great to, like I said, for them to get on film and be able to see some stuff so we can continue getting better with their growth.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
And we're back here after hearing from Coach Nick Patterson after Friday night's 42-8 victory at Community. The Raiders now will return to region play for 4 of their final 5 games in the regular season. It starts this week with a 3-game homestand versus Eagleville. So you'll, of course, remember, if you were following the Raiders last year, that the only region game they lost all year in a region championship team there was versus Eagleville. Eagleville, a really, really strong defensive line, pass rush. They gave Blaine Woodard a tough night there as, that had really broken up the passing game for the Raiders last year, much more than they had seen in any of their previous weeks. So, when you think about the Eagleville Eagles, they run the ball well, and they play good defense. Just what do you think initially are some of the keys as the Raiders head back to Wayne Hobbs this week?
Yeah, getting back into region play, Mark, you got some momentum coming out of your most recent non-region matchup. You're at home, so you're getting into the meat of your region schedule. But as we say, 3-game homestand, exactly what you want at this time, middle of the season. You got some confidence back. Now let's do some damage here at home here. Of course, Eagleville, it seems like, has been a long time a rival for Richland in across many sports.
Yeah.
And it has been there, very athletic. We know what they're capable of. As you say, gave them kind of a hard time last year in that game. And so now they're hosting over here now. I think for Richland, limiting turnovers, of course, possession, time of possession, managing field position when you have it and taking advantage of those opportunities with good position there. I think you want to put Gavin Schrader in a position where he not necessarily has to be the hero, but he simply manages and does what his skill set allows him to do. I think if he does that and you have good support from the rushing attack, I think offensively it can be very strong.
And you think about what you can do to mitigate a strong pass rush when it comes to screens, when it comes to potentially some draws there too, quicker routes, because that's one thing that I think we will note from what we've seen from Richland this year is sometimes when they've struggled with passing the ball, it's because, some of their passing players are slower developing, in which they're going deep 30 or 40 yards in the air, which of course Schrader has the arm to do that. But when you have guys, kind of breathing down your neck there on a strong pass rush, sometimes it's better to be able to get the ball out quickly. And so I think that's what you're probably going to see from the coaches there. The Raiders really like their screen game. They really like stuff that, is able to get going quickly and not, slow developing plays such as the double handoff we've seen sometimes this year that versus Huntland really wasn't working out. And so I think that's one of the things you're probably going to see is that playing a good defensive front, probably the best you've seen this year, or at least the second best, may potentially change up how they call some of their plays. Of course, also want to see more Colin Cagle. I think he was the most impressive player on the offense last week. Really, really strong as a junior there for them. And I think he's kind of established himself as the premier back on a team that has quite a few rushing options. When you look at Eagleville, they're kind of like last year for the Raiders in the fact last year you had Luke Eastlick, Nash Petty, and Andrew Huff. They have a 3-headed running back trio in Jonathan Jordan, Thomas Solomon, and Marshall Fields. Jonathan Jordan has already been player of the week once this year. And so you know that they're going to run the ball very effectively, even if they don't pass the ball a lot. Of note, a lot of times when you have a team that runs the ball a lot, you'll have a running quarterback. It doesn't look like Fox really meets that mold there. And so I think it's really going to be, hey, you being able to, key in on those running backs, know what you're trying to do. And of course, what do we see versus Huntland? Richland consistently playing good defense against the run, but then giving up 3 really, really long runs that ended up adding up to 196 yards on those 3 plays. And so I think having those with a healthier team than you had 2 weeks ago, having a performance in which you don't miss those key containments is going to be huge.
Yeah, as you said, Mark, those chunk plays, right? Which can be demoralizing to a defense. You do everything right to get up to 3rd or 4th down, and then you get a backbreaker like that. It only takes a few, like we saw against Huntland. So you certainly want to limit those and contain the edge, as you say.
And so Raiders 3-2 on the season, but 0-1 in region play will be taking on Eagleville, which is 1-0 in region play. I think this and the Fayetteville City game are the 2 biggest games left on the schedule. Of course, your game back, and you don't own the tiebreaker versus Huntland. So suddenly the margin for error in region play is much, much thinner. I really think that if you have any expectation of winning this Region 5A championship, you're going to have to win this game at home versus Eagleville.
Yeah, and the fact that you're at home for this works in your favor in every way. You don't have to worry about the travel. You're in your own backyard where it's comfortable. Take advantage of it.
Absolutely. And so Richland this Friday night will be at home versus Eagleville, looking for a second straight win there. And Jennifer Hawkins and myself will be on WKSR on the broadcast. Speaking of Jennifer, we're going to hear a quick word from her as she had a chance to talk to some folks at Richland High School this week about some exciting things they have going on there.
Welcome back, Raider Nation, to All Things Richland, another special treat. And in case you hadn't noticed, it is homecoming week around here. We wanted to mention that's why we look so bright and beautiful. It's Neon Day here at Richland when we're recording this. But I have with me for Neon Day the best and the brightest of a couple of our golf team members. So let's get to know and meet 2 of our players. For the girls team, our senior Jolie Robinson, we're going to talk with in just a minute. And then off of our boys team, we have junior Mylan Dickey. And so they're going to share a little bit about what golf experience has been for them. But we want to give a quick shout out. They just finished up districts. It was Monday of this week. We're recording here on Tuesday, and so they had some good qualifying rounds. So the boys team finished third overall, and so they have qualified for regionals. And then the girls team had some individual qualifiers as well. So Jolie gets to move on to regionals. And then also your teammate Presley Crabtree also qualified for regionals as well. So they're going to take place that next week, next Tuesday, after you see this recording. So if you see them out and about, any of the golf team, wish them luck as they represent us well for regionals next week. And so let's get to know these guys. Mylon, let's start with you. So how long have you played golf?
Well, it's been about 3 years. I think I was freshman year would be my first year ever playing. Then I fell in love with it and kept with it. Sophomore year, got a little better. Now junior year, I'd say I'm pretty good, but you know,
pretty
we're
good.
getting there.
All right. So by your senior year, watch out, right? Watch out. All right. Well, tell me, do you have a favorite course that you like to play, and why is that?
My favorite course would be our district course, actually, Henry Horton.
Okay.
It's just a great course. 18 holes, which is nice. And then my favorite part about it is it really is just you and the golf course. Mm-hmm. Just out there in nature. It's just awesome. It's tough too, challenge you a little bit. So,
yeah, golf is one of those sports you kind of have to stay self-motivated, because sometimes you're really just on your own and you don't have all the spectators necessarily like you do with other sports. So good for you. So next year we're going to watch out for you too to really come through on that senior season, but after you get some regional experience this year. So
I'll try.
Jolie, let's swap over to you and ask you a couple of questions. So this is your senior year. So what has kept you playing golf all these years for Richland?
Really, the outcome of it, even though you have days you don't shoot well, the experiences and
it's okay, we'll edit that part out.
The friendships and the people you get to know, and the rays, of course. You get really tan, and I really like that. And yeah, it's just the motivation from your friends and family to come out and watch you. Because I know golf isn't really the funnest sport to come watch, but it's worth it in the end.
You enjoy it. Maybe I need to go join you guys. I need a little bit of the rays.
Yes,
yeah. I kind of more of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I need to join the golf team so I can
get the rays.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's good advice there. Well, speaking of advice, what would be your best tip to give like a new golfer or beginner golfer?
Just to really stick with it. I mean, if you play for a couple months and you find that you don't like it, it's okay to quit. But when you stick with it, find a set of clubs that fit you. You don't even have to go for the most expensive or the most popular. It's what fits you and what fits your comfort of beginning for golf. You can always buy more clubs and invest in more clubs. You just need to start out with the clubs that fit you the best.
And then give it a chance,
and
right?
give it a chance.
Because
I'm
sure neither one of you, just been like, I can't do this anymore. No, you have those moments.
It's really frustrating. You have those moments where, you just got to cry a little, and then you just finish your round. Yeah.
Yeah, that's part of just kind of being an athlete, too, for any type of sport is sometimes you just got to do the hard work and stick it out and put it together, right?
Because it is really physically and mentally challenging. Because you are walking in the hottest part of the day. You're carrying your clubs. You're pushing clubs. You have to keep up your energy. Yeah.
And like you said, you don't always have the roar of a crowd to kind of feed your energy. So it's kind of that self-motivated.
Sometimes you can have one person. Sometimes you can have 5 people. Sometimes there's nobody to watch you.
But you just keep on, and you just kind of fall in love with it, like you said, and want to get better at it. So, well, good. It's some nice things. So maybe we'll have to hit around together one of these days, and you guys can help me get better and better. If nothing else, I'll catch some sun and try to get some rays.
We'll start with putt-putt.
Okay, it's putt-putt. We might can handle that. That's about more my speed, probably. So, folks, thanks for joining us. Some great kids, again, that we get to enjoy here at Richland. So thanks for tuning in each week and meeting more of our students and getting to know them a little bit better. Again, these were our golf members giving you more updates. And so check them out next week, next Tuesday. That will be September the 30th is regional rounds. And so we wish them the best of luck. For All Things Richland, I'm Jennifer Hawk.
For a new job, let M&M Staffing be your guide. With over 20 years of experience, we know how to connect great people with great opportunities. We work with over 80 companies, so we're sure to find the perfect job for you. Our team is dedicated to helping you succeed, and our high customer satisfaction rate proves it. Ready to get started? Visit us at mnmstaffing.net or give us a call today at 931-347-4255. When it comes to insurance, Winterburr and Associates Insurance is the team you can trust. We offer coverage for your home, auto, business, and more. We work hard to find the best policy for you at the best price. Our personalized service means we take the time to understand your needs and make sure you understand your options. We want you to feel confident and secure with your insurance policy. Let us make insurance simple for you. Get a quote today at winterburrinsurance.com or call us at 931-363-8638.
And we're back here one final time on Beyond the Box Score for our college football and NFL segment, joined once again by my good friend Dylan Manus. And so, Dylan, the SEC announced their permanent rivals going forward as part of the new 9-game SEC schedule in football. A few surprises, I think, for some local fans. Just having had a chance to look over it, what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, you try to predict, at least for your own team, how things might go. You know your own rivalries. You know what possibly you'd get in most circumstances, but you also, through the years, you see new rivalries appear. And as conference realignment happens, things shift. You know, we talked about it a few weeks ago on Beyond the Box Score about some rivalries that we possibly miss,
right,
that are going away, and some that have come back even because of realignment, such as a Texas A&M. But there were a few things there that surprised me, because you got to try to fit certain teams in where everybody does get 3, even if it's a little bit awkward. And so just in going through, to be a little bit overwhelming here, one that got me was Auburn and Vanderbilt playing. Not too far away location-wise, you know, state to state, right? You share a border there with Alabama, Tennessee there. But you don't really think of Auburn and Vanderbilt, at least I don't, as a strong rivalry game. But I think that's a good example of where sometimes you just got to fit somebody somewhere in a particular slot. I fully expected Kentucky Vanderbilt. They've been they've been rivals for years, and pretty much the same way competitively over so many years, and they decided to go a different direction there. Kentucky, Florida. Interesting. We wouldn't really call that a rivalry over the course of the last 40 years, although the last few years we haven't seen some competitive matchups where Kentucky's actually been on the positive side of the scoreboard there. So some of those that kind of throw me off a little bit there. I found it interesting with the old Big 12 and Southwest Conference, those traditional teams now part of the SEC. How do you match those up? And you can see where they really tried to do that. The typical Texas A&M games. Texas, Arkansas, a big one there. Arkansas and Texas A&M have a long-standing rivalry going back to the Southwest Conference days. But, of course, Texas A&M didn't fit. Instead, Arkansas got, of course, Texas, but also your Missouri Tigers and the LSU Tigers. So you can't please everybody. Someone's going to get shortchanged a little bit. And, of course, you have to wonder, this team gets 2 weaker teams and 1 strong one. When sometimes I think that's a little bit short-sighted, especially in NIL and transfer portal now, where I don't think teams stay as bad or down for long. I think it's a more competitive market across the conference now. So it's a lot to take in.
It is. And the thing that's kind of interesting to me about it is you had some what we thought were some modern rivalries that would probably get picked that may not be as historical as some others, just get left out in the cold. You know, the first one that I saw was Tennessee, Florida. Since 2000, I mean, actually since the 90s. I don't know why I said that, because obviously you had the old Danny Werfel versus, guys like Peyton Manning games. But I think that's a big SEC rivalry. And, of course, you saw that go by the wayside there. Alabama, LSU. I mean, if nothing else, the year in which they played a rematch in the national championship. I really think that's one of the bigger SEC rivalries in recent years. One of the few trophy games that you have in the SEC is actually Missouri versus South Carolina, the Mayor's Cup, because both are Columbia. And, you lost that one for a Texas A&M Missouri game that I think both schools were kind of confused by. Mike Elko actually came out and said, we like that we're playing versus LSU. We like that we're playing versus Texas. But what's Missouri? Why are we doing that? And, a lot of people are kind of offended by that. I wasn't, because I kind of agree. I think Missouri would have rather seen the trophy rivalry South Carolina. And personally, I would have rather seen Vanderbilt for 2 reasons. One, because, up until the last 2 years, Vanderbilt wasn't very good. And also, it allows me to go see them. But that is a side note I will make. One thing I love about the new schedule is because you have 6 non-rivalry games, you get to see everyone within 2 years. and you get to go to every stadium within 4 years. And so there's no more of this not seeing a team for 7 years thing that could have potentially happened over the old schedule. So the fact that you're seeing everyone more consistently, and if you want to visit every SEC stadium, you can do that within 4 years now. And so I think that that's a really, really nice approach. But I'm just a little surprised by some of the things that got left out, Dylan.
Yeah, and it's amazing how many you could easily overlook. I was floored when I saw that Alabama LSU would not continue, as tight as they've been over the years and those very close matchups there. But of course, part of it's also proximity. Alabama and Mississippi State, to my knowledge, are the two closest schools to each other. They're in different states, but if you take away the border, it's not that far, maybe an hour and a half from Tuscaloosa to Starkville. So the proximity can sometimes fuel those kind of rivalries. It is a border rivalry to some degree, even though historically Mississippi State's on the negative side of the scoreboard. But you do have things like that where, we lost LSU, Alabama. In LSU, Florida, they've been playing every year since, I believe, 1971. How do you get rid of that? Of course, they don't border each other, but we might say it's a Gulf Coast type of matchup. And so that's another one I'm going to miss. So, yeah, a lot to process and wonder, after 4 years, they plan to go back and revisit these and see what they can do to maybe make things better or see what works and keep it. So we'll see. So I'm glad that they are going to revisit this after 4 years to see where they go from there. But to your point, Mark, I think it is good that at least we don't have to wait 7, 8, whatever years the way it used to be set up with cross-divisional teams where you're waiting so long to play a particular opponent.
An interesting note, though, that I hadn't thought about until last night, I actually made my own version, which I was like, I can make one that makes more sense. And so I sent it to you. I also sent it to Wade Neely and Cody Derryberry. And I was like, how was I able to make one that preserves more rivalries and makes more sense? And Cody said back, because yours was in order to preserve more rivalries, the real one was created in order to ensure the most playoff teams and the most revenue for the SEC. And so that may be a little bit more of a, pessimistic view, but there may be something to that in the sense that the SEC has a vested interest in creating schedules and matchups that generate the most revenue for the conference. And where do you get revenue from? From TV deals, from playoff appearances, And so, one might think about that we're sitting here saying, well, of course they would want to preserve the most rivalries and do what the fans want the most. But the question is that true? And once Cody said that to me, I said, you know what? You make a fair point there. Maybe they aren't thinking the way that we as fans are.
Why'd you have to give it to me that way, Mark? Because you're right. We do think about it from the fan perspective. College football is driven by the
We
fans
don't care about the money, but they have a vested interest in caring about it.
Right, yes. Now, of course, we would like to spend money going to see our rivals.
Right.
And, trash talking the neighbor, right? That kind of situation. But you're right, Mark. Bottom line is they do want to see great matchups that are going to generate revenue.
Yeah, definitely. And then we wanted to talk a little NFL football as well. I know this is a tough one to talk about, but after this past week and the start that they've had, really, I think a lot of people, at least in my circles, are kind of asking what's the problem with the Titans? Where can they go from here? And, obviously you remember, just like many of us do in this county, in this state, all those really good Titans teams, what made us fans of a team that, of course, was not originally from this area previous to our childhoods. Because, I was already born at the time where Tennessee first came to Memphis for 1 year and then came to Nashville after that, after being the Houston Oilers. And so just initially, kind of what are your positive memories? What are your thoughts about the Titans and what they were?
Yeah, I remember when this was going on, Mark. I was in 4th grade when the Houston Oilers made the move, and Memphis was a temporary stop.
Right.
At the time, I wasn't totally aware of where they were. I remember seeing Oiler colors and logos on TV. I thought Tennessee Oilers was a little bit different from hearing about the Tennessee Vols and that kind of history. And then the attendance was so poor, Memphis knew that the Tennessee Oilers weren't going to stay. Bud Adams' goal was to get them to Nashville, and he didn't want to play in Vanderbilt Stadium, but he took it because attendance was so poor. You had more Steelers fans at the Liberty Bowl in Memphis than you did Oilers fans, of course, because the Houston Oilers fans aren't going to follow the team into Nashville. So the next year they settled in Nashville, Vanderbilt Stadium, while the Adelphia Coliseum was being built. The next year they opened the new stadium, rebranded as the Tennessee Titans, a name that is fitting for the Nashville nickname, the Athens of the South. And you see that connection. They're trying to establish that connection, going with the state name Tennessee as opposed to Nashville to broaden that statewide possible fan connection, which I think took off very well. It also helps when you make a Super Bowl appearance and you have a Music City Miracle and iconic moments like that. The Steve McNair, Eddie George, Frank Wycheck era there that
Yes.
I remember that I loved so much. My first football jerseys came from that era. It's what got me to the NFL at the time, and there was a great connection there. I think Bud was very happy with that transition into Nashville and getting all of that support. And of course, we know the way the NFL ebbs and flows to the salary cap. Every team takes a hit at some point. I can still remember when Jeff Fisher was head coach and the Titans decided to blow it all up. And, just go ahead and, take your licks with the salary cap and build your way back up. And eventually with Vince Young, there were a couple of years there where they were more competitive. Most recently, of course, in the last few years with Derrick Henry at tailback. But we tend to see this up and down with a lot of NFL teams. Some teams stay bad more than others. Teams like the Cardinals come to mind, or the Chicago Bears outside of their mid-'80s, a great Super Bowl run there. You don't really see much about them, though, except for the fact that they are a historic team. And so it is kind of difficult to kind of get our bearings on where we see the Titans. Of course, when you're not winning, you tend to lose fans.
Yeah, and of course they have that new stadium coming up, which I know is also going to be an event center that's going to allow for a lot of new, non-Titans wins. Not Sunday, of course, having a lot of great events there too. But really, looking at it from my perspective, the Titans have not been historically bad. They've had 3 straight really good runs since coming to Nashville. And for me, I think it's kind of a multifaceted issue for them. One, I really feel like ownership has, kind of missed out on the draft a bit. 2 of the last 3 seasons, they've drafted offensive linemen in the first round. And yet, 8 years ago, or probably 6 years ago, they had probably a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. And I think right now they have a bottom 5 line in the NFL. And so the offensive line hasn't been good. The pass catchers really haven't been that good. And then, they've let guys go who were fan favorites and not really replaced them with one of 2 things. Because if you let a guy go, it probably suggests, oh, well, maybe they cost a lot of money. Maybe there was an issue with the player, And I'm not to say that that isn't a potential there, but you look at the contract differential between guys that you lost and guys that you replaced them with. I mean, a lot of people assumed, oh, well, they didn't want to keep A.J. Brown and Derrick Henry because of the contracts. But let me throw something out here for you for a second. So I'm not talking about their current contracts, but their first contracts after they left the Titans. The rookie extension that A.J. Brown signed with the Eagles was 4 years, $100 million. The Calvin Ridley contract was 4 years, $92 million. So you're only saving $2 million a year for Calvin Ridley, a guy who I think he's a really good second fiddle, but I don't think he's ever been a primary receiver consistently for your team in the NFL at this point. And so are you saving pennies for a guy who just is obviously, to anyone who's watched, just not nearly as good? You look at Derrick Henry versus Tony Pollard. Derrick Henry's first contract with the Ravens, which of course he's since got an extension because he's played so well, but it was 2 years, $16 million. Pollard's was 3 years for $21.75. So you're looking at the difference between $7 million a year and $8 million a year, basically. And so it's just not a large difference. And so if you're trying to save money and nickeling and diming, oh, well, how are we going to, keep fans interested, but also have an economical roster? I just don't know that they've done a good job at that. And then suddenly you find yourself in a situation where you have a couple guys on big salaries. Your last 2 guys that you drafted before Cam Ward both didn't work out. And now suddenly with an offensive line that's not very good, skill positions haven't been very good, the quarterback play hadn't been great. You're only averaging 18 points a game. And I just don't know where it goes from here. I think it's going to take some really key free agent signings, a little bit of a culture change, and then to stop striking out at the draft to get this turned around. I don't think Cam Ward's a bad player. And I think Cam Ward's in one of the toughest spots in the NFL right now. I think he has some real potential. But right now, Dylan, there's so many things that are wrong that it's really hard to see how they can turn around in 2 years. But with the right people in place, I could see them turning around in 4.
Yeah, I think you diagnose it well, Mark. There's so many intangibles there that you have to work with, from the locker room culture to the front office.
Yeah.
And you can only control what you can control. It's not the traditional college atmosphere where the head coach, it stops there. Maybe your athletic director. There's so many more hands in the pot here, many cooks in the kitchen with the NFL. And I think it's a lot to manage for the Titans organization right now.
Just kind of a last note there. I think when the Titans came to Tennessee, people are wondering, will Tennessee, which doesn't have a lot of professional sports programs, obviously, they have a couple. Actually, they have 3 right now if you count MLS. But, how will they receive them? I think they've received them extraordinarily well. I think people are really ready to root for the Titans. And, they have a lot of really faithful fans who would be willing to come back and, take a larger interest if they felt like that was going to be repaid. And I just feel like they don't feel that way right now. But how quickly could that change? We've seen it change before. And so just for a guy who doesn't watch the NFL near as much as I watch college, which I feel like that speaks to a lot of the Southeastern perspective.
Yeah.
I still would love to see a good Titans team. And I think that people in Giles County, people in the mid-state, and people in the region feel the same, Dylan.
Absolutely, Mark. And I think you hit the nail on the head. A lot of us have grown up where if you don't have that pro team in your state, you typically, your pro team is your college team.
Right.
I always joke that the NFL team in Columbus, Ohio is the Ohio State Buckeyes. And that's up north, of course. You got Cincinnati, Cleveland, but Columbus, Ohio State runs it. And that's in the Big Ten. So I think for us down here, we gravitate towards those traditions. But I agree with you. I think there's a lot of hungry fans down here that enjoy the NFL that would love a good, easy hour and a half, whatever, trip to Nashville to see a Titans game each week.
Definitely. Well, Dylan, that does it for this week's show, but it was an honor as always. Thanks for joining us.
Enjoyed it, Mark. Thank you.
Absolutely. So once again, this has been Beyond the Box Score. Remember, this week we've got 2 home games for you as the Giles County Bobcats play in the Elk River rivalry versus Lincoln County, while Richland will be at home in region play versus Eagleville. We'll have all the coverage there for you, whether it's JP Plant and Chris Bledsoe broadcasting on KSR, of course, myself and Jennifer Hodgkins broadcasting Richland on KSR, and then, of course, our social media posts, our photography, our game stories, both online and in the print edition of the Pulaski Citizen. So make sure and stay tuned for all of that coverage. And thanks once again for listening in. So a special shout out to everyone who is part of today's show: Chris Bledsoe, Dylan Manus, and of course, Jennifer Hawkins. And finally, my co-host, Chandler Harmon, and our producer, Scott Stewart. So one final time, enjoy some football Friday night and this weekend. You've been listening to Beyond the Box Score.